Oh, there's bubbles coming around. That's okay. Part of what I find most interesting about Perry recently is, although I've learned a lot from him academically, he's a really starting. Would you say from in March, Perry, or the initiative's been around longer?
Yes.
But it's really taken off intensively in March. And Perry is in charge, in some sense, of the academic outreach of INET, among other things that he does for the group. So what I thought might be good, given that you all have had such such a wide range of people speaking to you, and I'm sure you have some interest in continuing the kind of conversations we've begun here later, for Perry to give you a sense of what he has thought about with respect to INET and its initiative in kind of create community, if you will, for students, and how you could actually. Yes, I see there's bubbles. Don't worry. By the way, this whole thing about bubbles, Perry, is that the screensaver has bubbles on it. So that's if I'll have to move it around a little so that it doesn't fall into that. But Perry will speak to you for about 20-25 minutes or even half an hour about these various projects that he's undertaken, and hopefully you can participate in being here in this kind of global community of scholars he's created. So please welcome Professor Mehrling.
Thank you very much, Arjun. Are you hearing me okay? So first, let me begin that I'm speaking to you from my living room of my summer house on Martha's Vineyard in just off the coast of Boston, and I think this is just an incredible technology that's we're hoping to exploit to build a global community of young scholars, which I'm going to tell you a bit more now. So I'm glad the technology is working, because otherwise our strategy wouldn't work. So I'm very happy to be able to address you, and I apologize for not being able to be there in person. My plan is to, in fact, be there in person in the winter school in January. Arjun has invited me there. And also, it would have been fun to be. I see the distinguished list of teachers that is there. Many of them I know and are friends, and so it sounds like I've missed a wonderful opportunity. But thanks, Arjun, and the other organizers for putting this together. I thought I'd begin by just telling you a bit, in my own point of view, how I got involved in INET and what my own point of view about what INET is all about. And then I'll tell you about the Young Scholars Initiative as a part of that. I actually have been involved in INET from the very beginning, which is when Rob Johnson called together a group of us at the house of George Soros in Bedford, New York, now 2.5 years ago. And then we planned the initial conference at King's College 2 years ago, and then the Bretton Woods conference 1 year ago, and then the Berlin conference just 2 months ago. I'm now working full-time for INET. What INET is about, I tell you that history a bit to tell you that INET arose as a collective response to the financial crisis that began in the United States and now is certainly in Europe and probably will sweep in the whole world. It seemed to us, it seemed to a large number of people, that this crisis was a kind of indictment of economics, of standard economics, that economists didn't see it coming, and once it came, they didn't know what to do about it. And after it seemed to reside a little bit, they weren't quite even sure what it all meant, and they were trying to just put it behind them. So we wanted to make sure that this was used as an opportunity to open up economics to new ways of thinking, and to view this as an intellectual opportunity. And INET was founded for that. So we're all about opening ground for new economic thinking. INET is. It's not about saying, oh, we want to favor this other group that is out of favor, trying to open up a conversation to build some new economic thinking. And toward that end, there are sort of four resources that I think, intellectual resources, that we have been developing as I've watched the organization over the last 2.5 years. It's been a remarkable growth, you understand, from nothing to this big international organization in 2.5 years. The one that I'm most interested in, and I think the reason why Rob brought me in at the beginning there, is thinking of the history of economics itself as a resource. That there are ideas, there are themes, there are ways of doing work that are in the history of our own discipline that have fallen out of favor, or people have just forgotten about them. And this is a tremendous resource that's quite close at hand, as a matter of fact. And my own work, if you know anything about me, sort of has followed that strategy. I've written some history of monetary economics, my first book, and history of financial economics, my second book. And it's this foundation that allowed me to write my book during the crisis, The New Lombard Street. It gave me a perspective on what was happening in the crisis when people who didn't have that historical background were a bit lost. They were trying to look at it through DSGE lens or other such lens, and they were just frankly a bit lost. And so it was my intellectual background that helped me, and I think this is more generally true. It was economic historians also, as well as historians of economic thought, who seemed to have the most to say during the crisis. So this is one intellectual resource, and we're building this up a lot, giving grants to people doing history of economic thought and economic history. The second one is other social sciences. It seems economics, I don't know what things are in India, but certainly in the United States, economics is quite isolated from the other social sciences. There aren't very many conversations. Even economists are rather proud of speaking an esoteric language that no one can understand. And that leads to an impoverishment, I think, of economic debate. So INET has been reaching out and giving grants to anthropologists, sociologists, and I would particularly single out also law. At least in the United States, law is a place where institutional knowledge and institutional analysis has continued to thrive, and trying to reconnect some of that analysis with economics is a goal of mine. Also the natural sciences, physics and mathematicians and so forth. So we're trying, as I like to say sometimes, maybe you've seen some of the 30 Ways interviews that I do on the INET website. I like to say that at INET, economic thinking is thinking about the economy, not necessarily by economists. So the idea is to broaden the group of people who are permitted and anointed to speak about economic problems of our day. That's the second. The third, and here I come to you actually, is we're trying to open up economics to other traditions and other voices. It's been very much an American sort of thing, or Anglo-Saxon at any rate, for historical reasons. And this also limits, I think, the kind of conversation that we have. So we're very happy to be helping to sponsor this Indian summer school and the winter school, and we're hoping to do such things in Latin America and in Asia. The idea is to bring in other voices. We're not interested in taking sort of the truth from America and spreading it to the rest of the world, but in fact creating some two-way conversations and learning from the new economic thinking in other parts of the world. So this is another strategy that we have for bringing new economic thinking alive. And the fourth strategy is bringing practitioners into the conversation. I think academia, at least, I think it may be a bit different in India, but in the United States, academic conversation is rather separated from the economists who find their living in working for government as regulators or something, and economists who work for business in banks or other sorts of enterprises. These conversations tend to be quite separate, and they're mediated largely by sort of self-interest through consulting and things like that. Whereas the point is, practitioners live in the world. They live in the world. They cannot afford to indulge in the kind of scholastic separation that happens often in academia. I think academic economics has gotten a bit separated from the set of problems and set of phenomenon that were its origin, that is its purpose to illuminate for society. So INET is also very much, if you hang around INET very long, you realize you're just as likely to be interacting with somebody who works in a central bank as somebody who is a professor or somebody who actually is in a hedge fund somewhere. So this is the conversation that we're trying to use to generate some new economic thinking. So that's INET in general. Now, let me come now to the Young Scholars Initiative. It seemed to me from the very beginning, really, and becomes increasingly clear to me, that if we're going to get new economic thinking, the only real long-run successful strategy is going to be to get some new economic thinkers, okay? And that means you guys, okay? That means you, okay? That means young scholars. That means people, you are the future of economics. I am very concerned from my own experience as a teacher of graduate students, and also my own experience quite a long time ago as a graduate student myself, that the graduate training is weeding out people who would be good economists, or weeding them out not even during boot camp, but they don't even apply. They say economics seems not to be addressing the kinds of problems I'm interested in, so I will instead go and I will do a business degree, or I will go and be an anthropologist or something. So we need to really reach out and create a new generation of scholars, support those few graduate students who are currently in economics programs, who are really wanting to do some new economic thinking, and find ways to support them, but also change the way teaching is done so that different kinds of students will be attracted and it will be easier for the next generation. So how can we do that? Well, this summer school is one idea that Arjun has basically done, and I imagine we're going to be doing more such things around the world, face-to-face sorts of things. But these things don't scale all that well. I mean, there are 25 of you, I think, and it's a big world. So our second idea is what we're calling INET University, which will be online courses, resources, books free on the web, on the INET website. I am myself going to be experimenting. I teach a course at Barnard College to the advanced undergraduates, and I have some graduate student TAs there called The Economics of Money and Banking. And that's, I will be teaching that in the fall, I hope, online through Coursera. I've been just talking with the principal, Daphne Calder, there, and she's very excited about that. She says that the minimum size of enrollment in a Coursera course is 15,000 people, and the maximum so far is 80,000 people. And I find this just a tremendously exciting opportunity that the maximum students I've ever had in one semester at Columbia University is 150. 150. You understand? So in one semester of teaching at Coursera, I will teach more students than I've ever taught in my whole career, okay? And this technology, we want to have an INET-sponsored courses using this technology to reach the world. Not to denigrate the face-to-face. I think something very important happens in these sorts of summer schools, but they are limited in the scale that they can do in a way that these online technologies are not. So I'm very excited, and I'm using my own course as a guinea pig. And if this works okay, then we'll build out a whole curriculum that will be online and available for free. So now I come to specifically the Young Scholars Initiative. This idea that the future is with the young scholars led us just about, well, 8 months ago, November 2011, we had our launch conference. You can read about this on the INET website, the Young Scholars Initiative, the launch conference at the Tutu Conference Center in New York City. And it was a small conference of about, I think, 60 people. We brought 20 of our youngest grantees, people who are assistant professors, not tenured, and 20 graduate students who are nominated by our advisory board, and 20 more senior. Yes. Well, and including Arjun, I believe, too. Yes. Yes, including Vamsi is one of our grantees. In fact, I think it was there that I did my 30 Ways interview with Vamsi. That's right. So if you see that interview on the website, that's where it was. It happened in a hotel room at the Tutu Conference Center in Manhattan. That was one of the most, I actually think that's one of the most interesting ones, but I have my favorites. I shouldn't say which are my favorites because they're all my favorites. All my children I love equally, right? So so this was where we launched this, and we learned quite a bit of things. So this idea of this conference was to start building a pipeline. This is why I mentioned that there were 20 graduate students, and there were 20 assistant professors, and there were 20 more senior scholars from other disciplines, from law, from sociology, as I say, from philosophy. And we were trying to start concretely seeing what a pipeline would be like, where you start as a graduate student and then maybe you become one of our grantees, and then maybe you become a senior scholar who helps the young people. And so this pipeline is what we're trying to get going. Now, at Berlin, our plenary conference in Berlin in April, we tried to build on that by having 25, we had a competition, and we invited 25 graduate students to come to the annual conference. And that was already something, but 560 people applied. And so we had a further idea, which we did very much at the last minute. And that was to say, well, let's try to maybe create a parallel conference in which we can invite everybody who can make their way there. And that was the beginning of what we call the YSI Commons. And there were, I think, 200 or 300 students who came, mostly from Europe, and in fact, mostly from Germany, because we were not paying their transportation or their housing. But they were watching the main conference on video feed, and on a live video feed. And after the speakers spoke in the main conference, they walked next door and they spoke with the students and answered questions, and it was an incredibly invigorating experience for the students who were there. This whole thing, this whole conference, I should say, this parallel conference that we call the YSI Commons, was organized by me from Manhattan, okay, using this technology that we're using right now. I sent an email to the German students in Berlin who hadn't made the cut for the 25 who were invited, and I said, if you want to be a part of this, what about being a part of a task force to organize a parallel conference? I got a committee of 7, and they organized the whole conference in Berlin from bi-weekly phone calls using this technology here. And they built it in 3 weeks. A conference for 300 people, a parallel conference for 300 people, they built in 3 weeks. And it was a fabulous success because of them. And we followed up now with the third phase of the YSI Commons, which is now virtual. And that's what I want to show you. So we hired one of those students who happened to have just finished his master's degree, so he had time. And he's now working for us full-time, Jay Pocklington. And he built, with some volunteers, other graduate students, a whole social media platform that we call Virtual YSI Commons. And let me just show that to you now by showing you my screen. You tell me when you can see that screen. Okay? And can you see the whole thing? Okay. Okay, so you see my pointer here? Okay, so this is a social media website that is just for graduate students. You see here on the right, it says private network. Okay, so this is not like Facebook. It feels like Facebook, okay, but it's private. It's meant to be a place where graduate students can talk with one another and without having the fear of all kinds of other people coming in and messing up the conversation by by flaming and doing the kinds of things that we see happening on the internet, right? This is meant to be now about scholarly conversation. We think of this as the entry point into the pipeline. When graduate students come in and they're looking for community, they're saying, I'm all alone where I am. You're not alone. Join the YSI Commons, and we have 200 members now. I'm going to scroll down, and you can see and school. This is Jay Pocklington, who I said we've hired full time to help run this, and there are various other people here. Some of these are graduates, are masters. Yes? Are you seeing it? Okay, so let me show you some more about this. So I have my... Okay, so I will just go a little maybe more slowly. We're learning about this technology. So there's my own, I could click on this here, my YSI. I have my own page where I can post things, and it's similar to Facebook in that way. I think given the technology, I'm going to just scroll down, and I'm not going to switch pages. You can explore this. You can all join this. You can, and then explore it yourself. I just want to show you. See here where it says events. Steve Kinsella on Ireland in the Euro crisis and the joint YSI Commons research project. This is one of the things that the students are doing. They're having these sort of webinars where Steve Kinsella, this is an attempt to reproduce online the kind of feeling that we had in Berlin in the YSI Commons. Remember how I said the speakers would come over after their talk and speak with the students? Well, we have a technology where the speakers are speaking to students all over the world using a WebEx technology, and the students can ask questions individually from wherever they are, and they can get answers from Stephen Kinsella. And so this is what we call a virtual visit, and this is about the 10th one we're doing. And so it's scheduled, you see, for July 26th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Central European time. So in order to make it possible for Americans to be in and other people. So we're hoping to have one or two of these a week, more or less indefinitely. Yes. Yes, Arjun. Yes. So I'm going to scroll down and you'll see some of the others. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down and you'll see here videos. Okay, so here, for example, are 3, and we record these, by the way. So you can go and you can look at these. Jay edits them down. So here you can see Alan Kerman. Here's an interview with Alan Kerman. This is, I think, from the Italian, when they had the Festival of Economics. And there's Rob Johnson doing a message to YSI Commons. Lord Adair Turner did one. These photos, by the way, these are all photos. This is me talking to George Soros. This is actually in Berlin, and this is one of the 7. This is me and Amartya Sen in Berlin. So they have these photos that they have. You see, they also have these blogs. I think this is my blog here, the Moneyview blog. Yes, Lethal Embrace, a thought experiment. So this is just to give you a taste for it of all of the kinds of things. Jamie Galbraith has done a virtual visit. Steve Keen has done a virtual visit. We're going to make our way around. Everyone says yes. This is the most amazing thing, that you can get, with INET's resources, pretty much anybody that the graduate students want to talk to, and they say, we're going to do all the details. It's just a matter of an hour out of your life. Everyone says yes. Everyone wants to do it. So this is what this is one of the initiatives that the students are building out in order to scale the experience that we had at Berlin. You understand that that was 300 students. That's pretty scaling. That's scaling from 25 to 300. But we want to scale from 300 to 3,000 to 300,000 to a global initiative for young scholars, because as I say, the future is that. Now I'm going to take the screen back so you can see me again. I think. Oh, did you see the frog? Yes. Yeah, that frog is actually, I took that picture on my smartphone down at the pond, just down here to my left. So that's my frog, actually. He's a pet frog. I would encourage you all, right now, the YSI Commons, if you saw the faces, it's mostly Germans, okay? But that's because that's where it started, okay? It started in Berlin, and we're hoping to take advantage of every face-to-face meeting, like here, okay, in India, to say, okay, so let's bring in a group now of Indian young scholars. And then when we go to Latin America, Latin American young scholars. And when next year we're going to be having our plenary in Hong Kong, so Chinese and Asian young scholars. So we're going to be building a global community, sort of one section at a time. And it's really meant to be for you. It's meant to be a service for you. And a platform that INET supports, but that you build according to your own interests. And we're watching and we're looking for suggestions how we can support this kind of young energy and bring it together into INET Central. Let me just say maybe one more word. I don't know if you received, I sent to Arjun this short article that I had written some years ago when I was a young professor. Did they get it? It's a book. Well, I will tell you, you don't need to have read it, but perhaps you want to read it afterwards. I was thinking, what work of mine could be of interest to these students? Because I know your workshop is really on problems of development mainly. And my own research interests are really very much in monetary economics and finance. And I've had some expertise in shadow banking and international monetary reform, other things I'm working on now. So what do I have to say to these students? And I thought back and I remembered an article I had written on Joseph Schumpeter, who was, of course, one of the great figures. His 1912 book, Theory of Economic Development, is a landmark in the here I use the INET strategy of relying on ideas from the past to help enrich our understanding of the future and the present. I wrote this article on Schumpeter, and I draw particular attention not only because it's about economic development, but also Schumpeter's interest in development of economic ideas. He wrote History of Thought, and also in development of young scholars. Schumpeter had a sort of idiosyncratic theory, what he called the golden decade, he said, is the decade between when students are between 20 and 30. Okay, that's when they develop their pre-scientific vision of what the economy is all about. Everything after 30 is really just filling in the holes and building on that vision. But that's a precious decade, he said, between 20 and 30. So he was a young scholar initiative guy, okay, 100 years ago. And so when he was teaching at Harvard in the 30s, this was his attitude toward the students he was teaching, that it was very important for them to spend energy doing some new economic thinking, exploring new territory, not just mastering the known tools. Because if you do that, you wind up being 30 and you have no new ideas. Okay, so you need to be, and then it's all over. So maybe he was a 60s guy before the letter too, that he thought after 30 it's all over. You can't really be creative anymore. So you'll see in this article that I've taken Schumpeter at his word and used it as a lens to look at Schumpeter's own life. And I said, so what did he do between the ages of 20 and 30. And if you look, he wrote 3 books, okay? The Theory of Economic Development is one of them. It was actually his second book in 1912. And I talk about what those books were about. And I'll just quote from the article one little thing. These books I read as demonstrating Schumpeter's willingness, this is now, I'm quoting myself, okay, on page 236, Schumpeter's willingness to embrace the tensions of his time, never choosing one side or the other, but rather standing between them, producing something new by channeling the energy generated by the opposition. Okay, this is a dialectical strategy to create new economic thinking, to make himself a new economic thinker, by not choosing which group to belong to, but by standing in between them and channeling the tension between them. I think this is what his genius was all about, and this intellectual strategy is available to us today. Of course, the tensions of our time are different than the tensions of his time, but the strategy is there. I end that article with another phrase that I'll just repeat to you here, quote to you, because it shows why INET is the right place for me right now. This is now me speaking, not Schumpeter. I say economics is healthy when it maintains a large and varied genetic pool from which tomorrow's theory can be selected, and when the variation in that pool is constantly renewed by mutation, which is to say by new vision formation and development. New vision formation and development. The point being that the economy, the subject of our study, is itself evolving and changing all the time. And so must economics, okay? INET is about trying to trying to make it possible, trying to facilitate a change in economics. Let economics evolve to match the challenges of today. And so I just conclude with the mission statement of INET. Have you read this mission statement, Arjun? Okay. Okay, so I'll just conclude with that. So INET's mission, and you'll see this on INET's webpage and everywhere, is to nurture a global community of next generation economic leaders. That's you. That's the first thing. To provoke new economic thinking, to inspire the economics profession, that's the existing profession, and to engage the challenges of the 21st century. That's what INET is all about. That's what the Young Scholars Initiative is all about. And I really offer this to you as an opportunity to get involved as much as you like. This is what INET is all about. And thank you for your time.
Set up talks themselves with people if they were able to make the linkages, right, Perry? Or am I mistaken about that?
Yes, that's completely correct. Jay and the Berlin team are, there's some technology behind the scene with this WebEx. And our idea is that we try to make it easy for you, that now we would like to turn this over to other people, to invite people they want to talk to, and to organize these kinds of discussions. And INET will take care of the hosting of the thing, that is to say, all the technology behind the scenes. All you need to do is to make the invitation, organize it, and be the moderator. You'll see there we always have students who are moderators, and often we have a panel of students or other people who are commenting on the speaker, so that you can see it's sort of like a fishbowl discussion, but there can also be questions from the audience, which can be anywhere in the world. And they've now been practicing with this technology, and they've done about 10 of them, and they're getting pretty good at this. But they don't want the agenda, that is to say, who gets invited, is not up to them. It's up to you. It's up to the YSI Commons. That's right.
You could organize a thing globally. You could host this, and we could could ask David Harvey if he was willing to meet and talk. Is that not right, Perry? Is that the general idea? If not,
that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. You know, I think it's very important to appreciate that INET is we try to create an atmosphere of open dialogue, that we're interested in a wide range of points of view, and also in having those points of view engage with each other. That's the point. Well, it would not be a success, the YSI Commons, if it turned into separate little groups, some of whom are just doing their thing, and some of whom are doing other things. We try to get some cross-conversation, cross-fertilization. So we want orthodox economists to be talking to David Harvey, and we want David Harvey to be talking to orthodox economists. It doesn't happen very much, okay? But maybe it can happen in YSI Commons.
Questions, thoughts, concerns? Anybody?
How can we join YSI? Is it open to all?
Can you say it loudly, sir?
How can we join
yes,
YSI?
I hear the question. All you need, when you go to it, I can send you the URL. I can also send you all an invitation to join. Just if you give me your emails. Arjun can give me your emails.
I'll do that. And we'll set up a kind of group here after that, a group email so you guys can all, yeah.
Yes, so we can do that. You can do it on your own. You can request. If you go to the site, you can request to be allowed to join, and then we review those requests. Basically, the idea is if you're a graduate student, actually a graduate student at some actual university, then the answer is basically yes. That's who we want to join. It's an attempt to maintain a certain level of conversation so that we don't get high school students, for example, okay, who are taking their first economics course, and also we don't get people who are not really economists, who are something else, you know, because otherwise the conversation gets diluted. But if you're actually studying economics seriously, then you're who we want, and that's the idea. It's not so much, it's meant to create a protective space for graduate students, something like a virtual summer school environment. And there are many things possibly we could do with this environment. The virtual visits is just one. You'll see there are these research groups that some people have set up with the thought that maybe they could share their work with each other and have some dialogue. We're in the process of getting a corporate membership to this GoToMeeting technology that we're using right now. It could possibly be that we could set up research colloquium where graduate students are participating on particular topics, like you have research colloquiums in your own home university, and we can have these on a global basis. And we could have hundreds of them, presumably. I mean, this should scale. This thing should be able to scale. But we're right at the ground floor.
Just to make that concrete,
yes.
Perry, just for example, some of you, let's say, are working on agricultural issues, or some of you are working on education, right? And when you go back to your home institutions, you'll be working on that, and you know, you work with your advisor, you have some friends there, but you wonder, oh, I remember Janusha said something very interesting about loans in Orissa. You know, I would like to have a situation where I find out what she's been working on. So one of the things you could do, just as an example, is you could set up small little working groups where you say, okay, we'll meet online with this technology, we can share certain things, we can set up a kind of monthly discussion or weekly discussion. And I'm hoping you'll do that after this, and so that you can continue the conversations that you have in the particular areas that you might be interested in, right? Is that the kind of model that we've seen?
That's right. We've already been doing this successfully with more senior scholars. For example, I'm a part of a research colloquium on shadow banking that is about to create a white paper that will be published. And we just had a meeting 2 days ago. And here I am here, and another member is in Washington, another member is, so all over the world. And so we have a graduate student who's one of the Berliners as our research assistant. So this is another possibility, is to be and he was in Berlin. Okay, so he's in Berlin being the research assistant for this collaboration of people, one of whom is at the IMF, then there's me, I'm at INET, and we have professors. So the the opportunity for different kinds, new kinds of collaboration is really, we're at the beginning of a new age, I think. We just need to imagine it and try different things. It's not all going to work. You should appreciate INET is a very experimental place. We try things and we learn from them. We learn what works, what doesn't work, and things that work, we try to scale them. Things that don't work, we shut them down and we move on. We do something else. So we're committed to new economic thinking. That's the main thing. How we get new economic thinking, we'll try anything that has a promise to work.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments? All right. So Perry, I know you got up really early in the morning to come and speak with us. So thank you very much. And we just say bye to you.
Arjun,
All right.
I always get up early in the morning. It's my last word of advice to students, okay? Get up early in the morning and work. This is how you produce books.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Perry.
All right. So I'm going to sign off now.
All right. See you back on the
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes.
Okay, how does this work? Okay, that worked well. That was not too bad. Good. Well, tomorrow is the last day. So we'll have, we're going to try to have shorter lectures. I know you all say, trying not to be happy about it, but I know we all will be happy. So we'll have shorter lectures. Tomorrow we'll have Chandan Dara speak for about an hour in the morning between 9:30 and 10:30. Perhaps we can, we'll start with Professor Bhargavi at about 11. But if we can't, it will be 11:30 to about 1. I had originally thought about trying to have a bus for everybody to go in, but it doesn't look like it's going to be feasible because everyone's going at different times. Tomorrow also we will give out these evaluation forms where sometime during the day just try to fill in and try to give us advice about what to do next time. I know again if you're concerned about a certificate, we will have the certificate that has to be signed by the registrar. I hope it's okay, we will send it to you by email in the next week or so. All right, see you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.